All right. Good morning, traders. Today is April 8th, 2025. My name is John Kerrigan. I moderate the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody in podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Thank you so much for following me or subscribing to my content. Thank you for finding the value in my content. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the kind words. I love that. That helps to fuel me going on into the future. Thank you so much. All right. So my SPY pivot this morning, 500.80. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. All of the Fab Five still in daily downtrends. Okay. SPY and Diamond down, made lower highs and lower lows, closing under bearish traps under their 17 EMA. SPY closed with a 2-hour downtrend and a questionable 10-minute downtrend at the end of the day. It crossed up in the post market, so we'll see what happens. All right. IWM, QQQ, FNGA, all made outside days. That's higher highs, lower lows. All right. Outside days. Closing below bearish traps, just like the other two, below falling 17 EMAs. Gold in a daily uptrend, made a lower high and a lower low, closing below a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. Silver in a daily downtrend, made an inside day that's a lower high and a higher low, closing below a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. USO made an outside day, again, higher high, lower low, closing below a bearish trap under the 17. UNG made a lower low and a lower high, closing under a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. US dollar index still in a downtrend. We like that. All right. Close near the 103.49 area. SPY, Max Payne for all the options that expire today at 4:15 is 5:14. A little dyslexic there. Okay. With a put to call ratio of about just a little smidgen over one put to each call that expires today at 4:15. All right. Let's go take a look at some charts. All right. All right. Let's pick up a clean one. All right. 10-minute. Okay. This is the post-market. This is the pre-market. See where the 8, that divides the line. Little gap up there. They filled it. All right. So right here, price action. All right. We had a 10-minute downtrend coming into the close. All right. But you can see in the post-market, they had a couple candles up. So right there. So yesterday's instructions were this. Okay? Yesterday's instructions were pretty much not quite instructions, but were I just kind of shared what I saw that I was going to look for, because I saw price action down here off this line right through here, and you can see right through there all of this. Okay, we're to trade from that direction up, 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 like just like that. Okay, and you can see it's still continuing to work. I don't know how much longer it continues to work, but it's working right now. If they happen to climb on top of that breakdown candle high, or the last peak high, anchored VWAP, and consolidate bullishly up there, all right, that will be a bullish environment. Okay, so what we had from yesterday, all right, take all that off, all right, is consolidation for the most part under prior consolidation. See, that's there. There's yesterday's price action, and this would be the previous day's price action. That's a bearish environment. Now, in the post-market, you can see not quite the same thing. Now we're getting consolidation, okay, over prior consolidation. So we'll see how far this takes us. All right. It's looking good so far. Still working out. All right. So they may be coming up to challenge this peak up here. Right about there. Okay. Now, you notice prices over, I think my pivot was, I think it's 510 or 508, something like that. It's 500. All right, so we're up over the pivot, okay, and we're actually up over the green line. So all we need is a green candle to enter on today in the morning time. All right, and the target would be this high right up here. Okay, so that would be the target. About 5. I don't know what that is. Let me see what that is. 520. Let's call it 523. Be a little conservative here. Okay, so we need a green candle. All right, can't be a topping wick candle. All right, that would be a candle with way more wick than body and tail. All right, so what would be an example of a topping wick candle? Okay, let's pull one out. All right, so that would be this candle right here. Okay, see, much more wick than body and tail. All right, that's not my candle. All right. This, with more tail than body and wick, that's my candle. No red candles, okay, because red candles show me that the bears are in control. Okay, no doji candles and no spinning tops, because that tells me that bulls and bears are satisfied where the price is. So I don't want any dojis, I don't want any spinning tops, I don't want any topping wicks. I don't want any red candles, all right? So I want a green candle that says bulls are in control and we're moving higher, all right? So we already got the green erases red, just need the right candle to buy into. And of course the target is, like I said, right there, all right? That would be the target, all right? So that's for the plan for this morning. So just need a green candle. We're getting closer and closer to that target. Again, about 523. All right, let's take all that off. Take a look at 2-hour chart. All right, let's take a look at the 2-hour chart. Okay, going into the close, still got a 2-hour downtrend. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart. All right, on the scratch. Daily chart, still got a daily downtrend. All right, lower high, lower low, closed under the trap. Under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, all right? Still in a daily downtrend. On the weekly chart, okay, there's a low, there's a low, or there's a low. Okay, we made a lower low. We're in a weekly downtrend, okay? Monthly chart, still in a monthly uptrend. This is a pullback in a monthly uptrend so far, all right? I don't know if they're done yet. Usually these things come in groups of 3s, okay? There's 1, 2. Are we going to get a third one? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. All right, so there's SPY on the monthly chart. Okay, so weekly's in a downtrend, daily's in a downtrend, 2 hours in a downtrend, okay? All we got right now is like a 15-minute, 10-minute uptrend. Okay, see that? 15-minute, 10-minute uptrend right now. That's all that's working. With resistance right up overhead, right up here. So we'll see what they want to do. All right, so let's back up here. Put an anchored VWAP up here on the prior high. Okay, you can see if we get up here, okay, 515, 516, and hold this higher ground, that would also be another bullish environment. All right, we did fill the gap yesterday. That is good news. All right, it shows us there's some bulls down here. Okay, still got another gap to fill. Okay, so you can see right there. Actually, my 2 targets are going to be that peak high and the open gap, which is at 526.28. Okay, those are my 2 targets for this morning. Okay, you can see right here 523, 526. The high of this candle right here, 526.28. All right, so if we get up here, consolidate bullishly, hold the higher ground, that would be a bullish environment. Again, when we consolidate over prior consolidation, that's a bullish environment. So we'll see what happens. This is all pre-market, post-market. I call it manipulation. We'll see what it wants to do. All right, so there's the 10-minute. I showed you the 2-hour. Let's take a look at the game plan. On the 10-minute chart, okay, you can see, let me drag this. Slide this over here. Move this over here. Okay. I like $3, 3 days till expiration and 10 days till expiration Friday options. Let me just say, there's a whole lot of volatility out there. All right. Everything's like way, way, way overpriced. Okay. You or we might consider going out another 7 days. So in other words, 17 days. All right. And the same with the $2 to $5 out of the money. I am now considering $5 to $10 out of the money because things are just way overpriced. Okay. Just putting that out there. I'm not telling you what to do. I do like $2 to $5 out of the money, but with the pricing that I saw yesterday, I'm starting to consider $5, $10, even $15 out of the money. The way that they have this stuff priced right now, all right, and going out further in time, only because I want less volatility, and you'll find you'll get less volatility with that. It won't stop price from being volatile, but it will help cool the option off as opposed to what we got. Like this, I don't know what that was. That was, let's see, 523, and this is 490. I'll call it 495. So that's $28 10-minute candle. Okay, 23. All right, from the bottom of this candle, let's call it 495 just to round things off. Okay, $28 10-minute candle. Okay, that's crazy. All right, that's what I'm saying. Super volatile. I mean, we don't even get months that move $28 sometimes. Okay, so you got that in one 10-minute candle. Things are very twitchy. All right, so be careful out there. All right, it can come down just as fast as it goes up, as you can see here. It went up and came all the way back to where it started from. All right, so be careful out there. It is a dangerous market right now. All right, and they are way too comfortable putting in $28 10-minute candles. All right, that's just crazy stuff right there. All right, so be careful. All right, so there's the game plan. Okay, pivot 500.80. All right, downside below 494.70. I want to be a bear. That's my bearish red erases green entry. And on the top side, my bullish green erases red entry is 509.80. So over 509.80 is my green erases red entry. All right, you can see we're already up there in the pre-market. Yesterday, Rickster says, yesterday, 509.80 was not an entry today. Why was it wrong yesterday? Today it is. Thanks. A little confused on that. 509.80. Why is it an entry today? Because we had a pullback. We had a pullback, made a higher low. That makes it an entry today. Does that make sense? All right, because you had price moved up, pulled back, made a higher low. Now green comes back through and takes out the red up there. We were consolidating underneath this downtrend. I hope this makes sense. I'm just going to point it out to you real quick. Okay, so we got a downtrend right through there. Okay, I want to see us break the downtrend. See how we broke that downtrend right there? See the wedge forming? Bearish wedge right there. Does that help? No, it has not taken out the big candles. No, it has not, but that will be a target. As well as this open gap right up there. The top of that candle and the open gap are targets. Okay. Still haven't broke the downtrend. Consolidating with lower highs. See the lower highs? Consolidating with lower highs in a daily downtrend. 2-hour downtrend. looking for a 10-minute uptrend. Okay, a lot of waviness going on yesterday. Not a lot of opportunity. A lot of slop, if you ask me. All right. So again, price over 509.80. That's my bullish entry. Bearish entry under 494.70. All right. Let's go look at the slop from yesterday so you guys can see it and recognize what to stay clear of. All right. Let's take a look at the zero. Yeah, right there. Okay, you can see here, all right? See the 3 EMA crosses up over. It's very hard to see because I got it turned way down. And I probably could thicken it up just a little bit. All right. Okay, so you can see the 3 crosses up over the white line right here. Then it crosses under. Then it crosses over. Then it crosses under. Then it crosses over. See, when that happens 2 or 3 times before noon, all right, they're setting you up for a chop day. Okay, nothing but chop, chop, chop. All right, that is hard. You're up, no follow through. You're down, no follow through. You're up, back up, you're no follow through. All right, that's a chop day. That does nothing but chop up your account. All right, unless you followed my guide this early yesterday morning, which was pretty much, take these lows off the line and just trade them to the upside. All right, that was on the guide, if you notice. Trade to the upside, that's all. Just come right off the line and trade to the upside. That's it. All right, if you followed the guide, you made money right there. All right. All right, so I'm going to move this off. Delete that, and I wanted to show you the volatility, okay? See, when this happens 2 or 3 times before noon, all right, that's nothing but chop, and it will just rip your account up into pieces. That's it. Try to stay clear of this, all right, when you see it. See, it's up over, and it's way under. Then it's way up over, then it's way under. See that? That's nothing but chop. It does nothing but tear up your account, okay? We make most of our money trading the trend. All right? The trend has always been our tried and true money maker. It's a bona fide 10-minute uptrend over VWAP or a 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. Okay? That's always been where we've made our money. All right? When we don't have a follow-through candle, okay, you can see here's the free-floating candle. All right, and no follow through. And then you got a free floating candle and no follow through. All right, that does nothing. All right, just nothing but tear up your account if you get suckered into taking that short or taking that long. All right, so there's SPY on the 10-minute. All right, whole lot of chop. See that wedge right there? Just wedging out. You can see the high, lower high, lower high, lower high, breakout. So it was coiling up for breakout. All right, so there's SPY on the 10-minute. I did the game plan. Let's take a look at the QQQ game plan. Again, QQQ, all right? All right, we make our money with 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. Okay? Those are where we make our money. That's where our easiest money is made. All right? 10-minute uptrend over VWAP, 10-minute downtrend under VWAP. Okay? Again, I like 3 to 7 days expiration, but with all the volatility, consider going out. That's supposed to say 10. Okay. Consider going out another 7 days. I like $2 to $5 normally, but with the high prices, I'm considering $5, $10, and $15 dollars out of the money. All right, $5, $10, and $15 out of the money. All right, because they're just way overpriced right now. All right, bullish. Okay, green erases red. All right, so this would be the red right here. Green erases it right over 430.30 right there. That would be a greenish. That would be a green entry right there. QQQ pivot 420.90. All right, above it I'm a bull, below it I'm a bear. Bearish, red erases green. Okay, so if red comes down here takes out all of these tails, all right? They don't look like tails now, but if I squeeze, I compress price, all right, this will look like a tail, all right? If I compress that price action of that bullish engulfing and that bullish engulfing and that bullish engulfing move and that bullish engulfing move, all of that will all look like tails, all right? The same as on the top side. If we compress this, this will all look like wicks, all right? It'll look nothing but wicks up there, all right? So underneath all of these tails, it's a brick of tails, okay? That's my bearish entry for more downside, all right? So we'll see what happens. I would say that they consolidate from here. See how they go down, they come back up, all right? Then they come back here, they're probably going back up there, and they would probably consolidate in a consolidation pattern. And as soon as it becomes clearer to me, I will share it with everybody. But you can already see price action. Let me trash that out. All right, has come down. All right. All right, and then we look for it to go back up, and it did. It just did it in a really quick fashion. And now it's come back down. And now we're going right back up. All right, so we're creating the W. It's very possible they pull a half back here and then rip to the upside, or they come all the way through. We'll see what happens. All right, but that's the consolidation pattern. I'll share it later on with a drawing, hopefully on the blackboard. All right, so trash that out. So there's the QQQ game plan. Let's go look at QQQ on the daily chart. All right, let's pick up the daily chart here. Let's pick up a clean one. All right. Okay, higher, high, lower, low. Closing under the trap. Bearish trap. See the 3 is underneath the ADMA there. Under the trap. Under, see the red dots? Under the falling 17. See the pink line? That's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Down here, quadrant 1, that's bearish. Okay, FNGA. Okay, same thing. All right, outside day, closing under the trap, under the 17, that's the red dots. Under the all-time high anchored VWAP, quadrant 1, that's bearish. All right, let's take a look at IWM. Again, outside day, under the trap, under the falling 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, quadrant 1, that's bearish. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Lower high, lower low, just like SPY, closing under the bearish trap. See the 3 underneath the 8, under the 17, that's the red dots, 17 EMA. Okay, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, right there, under this uptrend line, we broke the uptrend line. Okay, down here in quadrant 1, okay, that's bearish. You go up, you give it up, and more, that's bearish. Okay, there's Diamond Dow on the daily chart. Okay, let's take a look at our technicals, T2122. All right, we spent the day in the oversold zone all day yesterday. Okay, let's go look at T2123. All right, T2123, we gapped down. All right, they attempted to fill the gap. See, no signs of bulls yet. See that? Gap down, bearish gap, not getting filled. Bearish gap down, partially filled. All right, partially. All right, we'll see where they start out this morning. Starting to get a bearish gap filled way down here. All right, but still not filled. All right, bears are still here. Okay, they're still operating. Obviously, we're not filling bearish gaps. All right, selling from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. All right, looks like they took a 5 martini lunch there. All right, 4 martini. I see 3 green, 3 by 1. All right, a little 4 martini lunch and then some more selling. All right, so nothing bullish happening. We're not making higher highs. That is the secret, higher highs. filling bearish gaps, consolidation over prior consolidation. Okay, you start filling bearish gaps. All right, that shows you bullishness. All right, or weakness on the bear's part. Okay, consolidation over prior consolidation. That is a bullish environment. We're not seeing it. Okay, higher highs. We're not seeing it. These are the bullish environments we're looking for, and they're not there yet. Okay, maybe after today they'll be there, but right now they're not there yet. All right, did Nvidia go from 85 up to 100? Wow, that was nice. Love to have caught that one. All right, but maybe there might be little pockets of bullishness. Okay, but all in all, you can see T2123 not there yet. Okay, it's coming. I feel it coming. We'll see where it wants to go. All right, so there's T2123. Okay, still caught. This is a 15-minute chart underneath a falling 200 SMA there. All right, that's a 15-minute chart. Let's take a look at the 3-bar. Okay, get the fading 200. Okay, 3-bar chart, 3 more red candle bars right here. Okay, see the V bottom? We did not get a V bottom. Instead, we got a bear flag that lingered way too long, and then what happened? We broke down. Okay, see the bear flag? See the V bottom. 2 different bottoms. Know the difference. All right, made a lower high, inspired the bears to make a lower low, and they did. Then we lingered way too long, and we got another breakdown. Okay, the same thing works on the upside. When price moves up and holds the higher ground for way too long, what happens? We get breakouts. Okay, when they're holding, all they're doing when they're holding up there is they're grinding away at overhead supply. Okay, they're just chewing away overhead supply so they got clear skies so they can rocket ship out of there. All right, so here we are. We lingered way too long and we had a breakdown. All right, so there's T21 3-bar chart. You can see a lot of space between the price candles and the fading 200. A lot of space. Okay, probably the most space we've ever seen between price action and the 17 EMA here. Okay, see the distance, quite a bit there too. All right, and that led to this. Okay, so this is quite a bit of distance between that 17 and the price candles. There's T2123 3-bar chart. Okay, these are 2 prior all-time high anchored VWAPs. 2 prior all-time highs, not anchored VWAPs, and this is the all-time high up there. All right, so maybe we start meandering our way back up, but again, I have not seen any higher highs. I haven't seen any signs of bulls. Okay, a reversal on one candle does not mean the bulls are in town. Okay, that does not mean that the bulls are in town. Just one candle. All right, you need a series of candles. All right, a trend. That's why we trade the trends, because they're more reliable. All right, so there's T2123. One candle does not make a trend. FNGA, all right, yesterday, gap down. All right, red, green, red, green, red, green. There's the slop that we went through, then a green breakout, then a little pullback. All right, so there's the slop. Still not making higher highs. Okay, right here, they tried to fill a bearish. They filled this bearish gap. They tried to fill another bearish gap. All right, but failed. Maybe they'll fill it today. All right, still underneath this falling 200 SMA. That was bullishness there. All right, on the big caps. Finally seeing a little juice come in on the big caps. Now we're finally getting some price action over VWAP. All right, that's starting to look good here right now on the big caps, on the FNGA. All right, so we filled that gap. That was nice. All right, couldn't fill the second gap, and we still haven't made a higher high. Looks like we may get that higher high maybe this morning, because here's a high, and I think we'll get a higher high pretty soon this morning right here. All right, that'll be some signs of bullishness in the big caps. All right, that's FNGA. All right, trying to tag that falling 200 SMA. All right, this is the one to watch. This is the one that jerks the SPY and the QQQ around, because this is the 10 of the heaviest weighted stocks, securities in the QQQ and SPY. All right, this happens to, when they move as a pack, they can really jerk both indexes around into whatever direction they're going into. So that's FNGA. 15 minutes. Take a look at a few sectors. We'll start off with, on the daily chart, we'll start off with XLE. All right, XLE, this is energy. Energy was looking really, really good, and now look what happened. It really fell out of bed, didn't it? Lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the 17, under the downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, under this 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Way down here, making lower lows. It's in a downtrend. Right here, price action in quadrant 1, that's bearish. All right, so nothing good happening for XLE. Not these past 3 days. It was looking nice right there, holding that higher ground up in the bullish territory, and then they lost it. Just think, all it took was 3 days of chaos, and they lost everything that they worked for. And it probably took them a whole month, all of March, to build this up to here. All of March, undone in 3 days. Right there. All right? Very, that shows a lot of weakness. All right, so let's take a look at USO. All right, USO, same thing, all of March to build it up to there, and then 3 days wipes it out. Outside day, all right, higher high, lower low, closing under the bearish trap, under the 17, under the uptrend line, under, this is a 3-year high anchored VWAP. That is a post-COVID high. Okay, down here, that's quadrant 1. That's bearish. All right, UNG. Okay, quadrant 3, that's neutral. No longer in the upper third. Okay, lower high, lower low, closing under the uptrend line. Okay, over this 12-month high anchored VWAP, over the midpoint, just neutral right here. Okay, because it's in quadrant 3. It's not in the upper third. All right, if it gets in the upper third, that's bullish. All right, but it's not in the upper third. All right, so it's just neutral. Again, you move up and you give it up, that's just neutral. Okay, let's take a look at gold, high flyer gold. All right, gold bullish up here in quadrant 4, not moving up in the past 3 days. Okay, lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, under right here, the 17. Up in quadrant 4, that's bullish, making higher lows and higher highs. That is a bullish environment. Let's take a look at silver. Okay, silver lost it all in 3 days too. See that? Almost down into the bearish zone. Okay, so it's down here in quadrant 2, but not in the lower third. So that makes it neutral. All right, inside day, lower high, higher low, closing under the trap, under the falling 17. Okay, under the midpoint, that's the dash. Under, this is a doubles as a 12-year high, as well as a 6-month high, anchored VWAP. We're under that, okay? So we're just neutral right here. Under the 17, under the trap, under the anchored VWAP. Okay, so right there, just neutral. Let's take a look at our technicals. No, let's take a look at SMH. All right, SMH down here, quadrant 1, again, pretty much the same thing. Outside day, under the trap, under the 17, Under the all-time high anchored VWAP, under the uptrend line, quadrant 1, bearish. All right, the sibling, XLK, okay, got an outside day. Under the trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Again, under the uptrend line, quadrant 1, it's bearish. All right, let's take a look at XLF. All right, XLF, lower high, lower low, closing under the trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, down here in the lower third, that's bearish. All right, XLF, that's bearish down there. Okay, let's take a look at IYT. Okay, that was our financials. This is old news. Okay, outside day, under the trap, under the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, quadrant 1, that's bearish. All right, IYT, transports. Let's take a look at the economic package. All right, max pain for today, 514. All right, and we have a little over 1 put for each call that expires today. We're way up over 514, so that's already been filled. All right, let's take a look at US dollar. US dollar rallied yesterday, okay, and Sunday. So it closed at 103.47. Okay, notice we broke some little bit of major support here. Looking to come down here and challenge this breakup candle low right here. That could be an exhaustion candle right there. So we'll see what happens unless they take that out. All right, so in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows, and lower highs and lower lows. It's in a downtrend. We like downtrends for the dollar, especially for the market. All right, on the earnings report. Okay, Tuesday, a lot of familiar names, okay? Tilray Bland's, WD-40, all right? Some familiar names, all right? But nothing here that's going to move the markets, okay? Again, more familiar names, but nothing that's going to move the markets. Wednesday. Again, more familiar names. CarMax, you've heard them all. Walgreens. More familiar names, nothing that's going to move the markets. Okay, things change on Friday. JP Morgan reports $600 billion of market cap reports Friday morning. Wells Fargo, $200 billion reports Friday morning. Progressive, $149 billion in the. They're scheduled. They may not be ready. BlackRock, $126 billion. They report Friday morning. Bank of New York Mellon, $53 billion report. All right, so we're kicking off another season of earnings right now. All right, it's April. All right, financials reporting again. Okay, so April. It's going to be a big day for earnings. Keep an eye on those financials. All right, let's take a look at the economic calendar. Okay, we went through yesterday. Not much happened. What happens today? You can see NFIB Small Business Optimism Index, 6 o'clock this morning, and that's it. Wednesday, got the FOMC minutes at 2. A little bit of volatility scheduled for 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Thursday, CPI, 8:30 in the morning. Be some volatility on that. That's the main event for Thursday, CPI. Right there, jobless claims, 8:30 as well as CPI, 8:30. Okay? After that, it's a light day. Friday, PPI final demand, 8:30. Consumer sentiment at 10. And a rig count at 1 o'clock. Okay? There'll be a petroleum report on Wednesday at 10:30. It always pretty much happens on Wednesday at 10:30, unless there's a holiday. There's usually a gas report at 10:30 on Thursdays. Unless there's a holiday, then sometimes it gets pushed off till Friday. So we'll see what happens right there. Main event is Thursday morning, and then Friday morning for earnings. All right? All right. If there's no more questions, I am going to, hey Jim S, to yesterday's low on the 10-minute chart. Yeah, yes, I would use it. Jim, I plan to use mine. On your, talking about SPY, I plan to use mine. Right here, 10-minute. Yeah, I got one on the low here too, right there. I just don't have this up there because it's got a lot of lines. Sometimes people get confused, but I use this for a reference. I will be planting my anchored VWAP on the low right there. Yes. Yep, and you can see price action is right up into this. See the high? This is the last peak high right there. We're coming into that. Consolidating on top of that is a bullish environment. All right? So if we get, five 15-minute candles up there over that, that would be bullish. And I would look for a target of, well, this high right here. All right, that big spike high, as well as the beginning of the open gap right up here. All right, if they fill that gap, that will be bullish. If that gap gets filled, I don't know, we'll see. All right, I like to see that gap get filled. That would put us up at close to 540. Close to, not quite. Yes, time will tell. Right. Just watch the candles right now in the pre-market. Okay, in the pre-market. Okay, you've got, all right, higher lows and higher highs. Little higher low, little higher high. Okay, so things are working. That's a bullish environment. You've got consolidation. All right, over prior consolidation. See, this is the coil. See how things were coiling up to break out. All right, so I would expect a test of right there and maybe the open gap, and maybe they start to fill some of that open gap in there. All right, so for projections, this is my projection worksheet. Okay, I got projections. But this doesn't happen till right in that notch right there. There's the notch by about noon tomorrow. All right? Right inside that notch. And that's using fib along with price action projections right there. All right? That would be a 50% retracement of the breakdown. Right in there, right in that notch. And that number is about 526. All right through there. We can go further than that. They could spike it, hit the downtrend line up here. All right, but that's 526. Kind of scheduled for, looks like around lunchtime tomorrow. I don't know where it pans out if I do it like this. Let me just move it, see if it changes. Yep, still in the same location. All right. All right, guys, I'm going to render my video, and I will come back in 30 minutes, and let's kick off the markets. Remember, we're looking for a green candle, a continuation of that 10-minute uptrend. All right, not just any candle. No topping wicks, no spinning tops, no dojis, no red candles, because that shows us bears are in control. Okay? All right, I'll see you guys in about 30 minutes.